Pen? 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 Yes? Can you help me with my math homework? Sure, what you working on? The quack darn it formula. The quadratic formula? Yeah, that. Well, what part do you need help with specifically? The understanding it in the slightest bit part. Let's start with the basics then. The quadratic formula is used to find the x-intercepts of the graph of the equation ax squared plus bx plus c. Now usually factoring is easier and faster, but there are times when no matter what you do, it just doesn't work. And that's one of the cool things about the quadratic formula. It always works. You always get an answer. Or, in most cases, 2 answers, since there's a plus or minus in the formula right here. Whoa! Whoa! Whoa, that's the whodunit formula? The quadratic formula, yeah. I have to... There's no way I'm gonna remember that. I know it seems like a lot at first. No, look at it, it's like a mile long! Imbi! Calm down. I know it seems like a lot at first, but once you get it, it's easy. Here, this is how I remember it. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Hang on, I'm still not getting it. I want to try something. X equals negative b plus or minus square root squared minus 4c divided by 2a. What the hell? Okay, I got it now. Moving on. I think it's best to work with an example right now. Let's try x squared plus 3x plus 2. Now we actually can factor this equation, and I am going to do that first just to show you the correct answers. So technically that means we don't need to use the quadratic formula at all, but this way when we solve it with the quadratic formula, you'll see that it works just like factoring. And so hopefully you'll trust the formula when it comes time to solve an equation you really cannot factor. Are you getting any of this? Nope! Alright, I'm just gonna keep talking. So to factor this equation, we need to find 2 numbers that multiply to positive 2 and add up to positive 3. Since 1 and 2 multiply to positive 2 and add up to positive 3, our answers here are negative 1 and negative 2. The negative comes from the fact that this equals 0 thing means that one or both of these x's here have to cancel out the number it's being added to in order to equal 0, and therefore multiply to this other chunk and equal 0. So in order to equal 0, this one has to be negative 1, or this one has to be negative 2. Okay, now we're going to start on the quadratic formula. You'll notice there are a's, b's, and c's in the formula, just like our equation over here, ax squared plus bx plus c. These values here correspond to these letters here, so c is 2, b is 3, and, even though we can't see a value here, a is 1. Once we have all our values in place, it's just a matter of simplifying. We use the order of operations, PEMDAS. That's parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. So, since this part is in parentheses, we do that first. 3 squared is 9, and now multiplication. 4 times 1 is still 4, times 2 is 8, and 9 minus 8 is positive 1. Square root of 1 is 1, and now we have more multiplication here. 2 times 1 is 2. And now we have that plus or minus thing, right here, which gives us the 2 answers we'll get later. So let's see here, negative 3 plus or minus 1 over 2 splits into 2 equations, one with the numerator negative 3 plus 1 and the other with the numerator negative 3 minus 1. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2, divided by 2 is negative 1, and negative 3 minus 1 is, keep change, negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And, as you can see, x equals negative 1 and negative 2 are exactly the answers we got up here when we were factoring. So now you can say, the quadratic formula works just as well, if not better than factoring. It gets you the right answer every time, you know, provided the animator actually does it correctly, with equations impossible to factor, which is probably when you'll be using them most of the time. And you are bound to come across some scary looking answers with like a million decimal places, but if you have doubts, you can always plug your answers back into the equation and check your work. And there you have it. X equals negative 1 and negative 2. See, that wasn't so bad, was it? The quadratic formula is used to find the x-intercepts of the graph of the equation x squared plus bx plus c. Now usually factoring is easier and faster, but there are times when no matter what you do it doesn't work. And that's one of the cool things about the quadratic formula is it always works, you always get an answer, or in most cases 2 answers, since there's a plus or minus formula right here. Now I know, calm down, it seems like a lot at first, but trust me, it's gonna get as easy. But I think it's best to work an example right now. Let's try x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 2. Now we can factor this.